Let's get into a quick conversation, Richard, about Osimhen. Um, where is he? Is it time to talk about him the way people talk about Harry Kane, the way people talk about Robert Lewandowski? I think Erling Haaland has demonstrated that he's a class ahead of those, but some of that might be the product of the team that he gets to play on too. No. So maybe he stays in that conversation. Does Osimhen have a seat at this table now?
I think he does. It's difficult too because Erling Haaland is world class. He absolutely is. It doesn't matter what team he's on. He finds a way to score goals. Lewandowski certainly was world class. He still is world class. All right. He's obviously getting up there in age, but he can still do it with the best of them. He's certainly at the table. Mbappe is another one, right? Whether you want to call him a striker or a winger. Vinny Jr., whether you want to call him a striker or a winger, they're all up there. But Osimhen has, we always say we want to see more from them before we call them world class. But Osimhen continues to do it every week, and with all the pressure of having to score for your team, with all the pressure of the defenders on you, he finds ways to get it done. I mean, you saw it's not just goals. He makes these runs. He had a beautiful. He set up Cavada last week against Juventus. Should have been a goal there by Cavada, but he did his Zaza impersonation there. Today or this weekend, the juggling the ball, which is not the first time he's done it. He's done it many times before. Juggles the ball, gets through the defenders, and then finds his teammate for the goal. He does everything. He's a 5-tool player. We talk about this in the States all the time, a 5-tool player. And I think Osimhen has it. He's super intelligent. He makes great runs. He knows how to finish. He's stronger than he looks. He looks like this small, tiny frame, but he's just as strong as anybody with the ball. So when you talk about the Harry Kanes of the world, the Haalands, he is at the table, in my opinion. Now, if I'm ranking them, 1 through 5 or whatever, I think for me, based on age and talent, Haaland's probably number 1. I'll probably go Mbappe 2, Kane 3, and then from there, I'm hard pressed to put Osimhen over Vinny Jr. and maybe Lewandowski and some of the others, just because he's got time on his side. He's such a raw talent, and depends on what team he goes to. He could. He's feasting at Napoli right now. If he could go to one of these big clubs and really feast even more so, whether it's a Barcelona or wherever. This guy could do it all. Or more likely, he's going to go to England, right? But if he gets in a good team there, he could do wonders for them. I think so. For me, he's at the table. He's one of the top 5 players in the world in terms of that position. Jude Bellingham is on a different position because he's more of a midfielder, right? So I wouldn't put him in that position, even though he's leading La Liga. But you're talking out and out striker. He's certainly the best in Serie A, and he's at the table for the best in the world. There's a couple guys, like I said, are ahead of him. But what are your thoughts?
My biggest problem with Harry Kane is a lot of his goals just come against inferior competition. He basically won that Golden Boot back in 2018 because he got to play Tunisia and Panama. But then when the pressure got tight, the competition got better, he struggled. I think you can still make those comments about him, but man, when he scores them in bunches. Yeah. Robert Lewandowski has made a career out of scoring goals, obviously. Erling Haaland is just at an unbelievable, just unfathomable pace.
Yeah.
I think that Lewandowski still gets to be up there out of legacy, even though form-wise right now it's not been all that great. I know he's been fighting some injuries and trying to get his legs back and stuff like that. That has a little bit to do with it. But I agree with you. I think he's there. I put him among the 10 best strikers in the world. I don't know if I can get to 5 best just yet. I probably can come up with 5. I said Haaland, I said Lewandowski, I said Kane.
Yeah.
I think we can consider Mbappe a striker. That's 4.
Yeah.
Okay. He's one of the best in the world, though. Problem is there's a guy in the same league that I could make the argument is better than him. Lautaro Martinez. So,
Fair.
here's my thing. We're talking about Osimhen, but we better talk about Lautaro Martinez while we're at it.
Yeah,
because he's leading this league in the goal. He's leading this league in goals.
Was he third all time in Inter and most goals in a single season? Tied with Giuseppe Meazza, or did he overtake him now?
Something like that. Yeah,
29 goals this calendar year. So yeah, he's up there for sure.
Something like that. So I don't. I consider Vinny Jr. more of a winger. But there's he may be fifth. That's just that's one of those things. Is I'm just trying to rack my brain trying to find other strikers.
I will say this between Lautaro and Osimhen, the one thing Lautaro has over him is that he seems to be a big game player.
Yeah,
at least in Serie A and with Inter, because we saw the Champions League last year as well.
And that's where I'd probably put Lautaro ahead of Osimhen because I've seen Lautaro do it in big games. Osimhen didn't quite get it done over the quarterfinals against Milan. He scored at the end, but Milan had already gotten the tie wrapped up.
Yeah, but they both deserve a seat at the table for sure.
Sure, no problem with that.
Yeah,
no problem with that. But yeah, I think that he plays with power. He's got open pitch speed, but he's not a 1v1 where he's not a guy that's going to ever create his own goal. He does need service. Yeah. But most of these great strikers do. Kane needs service. Lewandowski. Mbappe is probably the one out of that group that can create his own goals.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes in. But the rest of these guys rely on service, but they get themselves in the position to finish too. So interesting conversation. He might be, if we're just talking about pure strikers, he might be in that. He might be in the top 5 now that I've talked about.
Yeah. I find it very hard. Very few guys who I think who can supplant him in terms of best strikers, but other than the ones we mentioned.
Yeah.
And great chat about Lautaro Martinez too. That's an excellent show.
I'd probably put Lautaro ahead of Osimhen at this point.
Yeah.
So, but those guys could probably trade places at least 2 or 3 times as the season goes on.
Yeah.
That's how close they might actually be.
Yeah.
So,